I'm hiding my father's infidelity from my mother and dying of guilt. Story 1. Let me start off by saying, my parents are a picture-perfect couple. They are high school sweethearts, but even after 30 years of marriage their spark never died. They still go on dates very often, leave love notes to one another around the house, and are very thoughtful towards one another. My dad especially is a great father and husband. When I was a kid, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. Thankfully it was caught early, but she still had to go through chemo, and it took a massive toll on her body and spirit. She was mostly bedridden. It absolutely shattered me seeing her suffer that much. It was a tough time for us, but I can't put into words how much of a trooper Dad was. This man took over everything. Not only was he the sole provider, but he was on top of all household chores. We had healthy home-cooked meals, the house was always spotless, and he made sure me and my siblings never missed a school day or any extracurricular activities and maintained good grades. He was there for my mom for almost every chemotherapy session and never once showed any signs of fatigue or frustration. He was always cheerful and kept telling us we'll get through this and we had nothing to worry about. It gave me a lot of hope seeing him stay strong throughout the whole ordeal and helped me stay focused on my studies and not spiral into depression. Eventually, my mom recovered and everything went back to normal. But to tell you I thought the world of my father would be an understatement. Superman had nothing on my dad. I looked up to him and aspired to be half the person he was. Imagine my horror when I walked into our house one day to find him in bed with another woman. I say woman, but she looks no older than 20 years old, basically my age. My mother was in our hometown for a distant relative's wedding, and I was supposed to be at college, but I wanted to drop by for a quick visit. I don't think I've ever yelled at anyone the way I did that day. I kicked her out and chastised him for hours after she left. This pathetic excuse of a human being tried to bribe me to not tell Mom. I can't even begin to explain how pathetic. He was begging me to not tell Mom, promising me he'll buy me a new car if I keep quiet. I wanted to throw up. It was a far cry from the father I knew, loved, and respected. It's been 2 weeks since this incident. I went back to my dorm, and my father has been spamming me with calls and messages ever since. He would range from begging me not to destroy our family to threats of cutting me off the will if I tell Mom. I've been wanting to tell her, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The aftermath of this will be brutal. My picture-perfect family will be ruined forever. I pondered telling my siblings instead, but I couldn't do that either. It would ruin their image of Dad forever. I feel like I lost my dad forever. I don't recognize this man, but this is not the dad I knew and loved. I'm an adult, I understand relationships are complicated, and my parents' relationship is ultimately none of my business. Cheating is one thing, but bribing your kid? Threatening to disown them if they tell anyone? WTF is this shit? How can I ever look him in the eyes again? I don't know if I'll ever forgive him, and I can only hope my mother finds it in her to forgive me for keeping it from her this long. I needed to tell someone desperately, but I didn't know who. Thanks for reading this anyways.
Story 2. My boyfriend made a pass on my friend. So, to give you context, I 30F have a boyfriend 34M, let's call him Jake. I have a best friend 31F, let's call her Morgan. I also have another 2 close friends 29F and 32F, let's call them Lisa and Susan. They are best friends to each other. So the other night, all 5 of us went to a nightclub with other friends of mine. It was the first time Susan met Jake. But Jake and my other friends already met several times and get along really well. Throughout the night we all got a bit drunk, just a little, not much, and I overheard my friends Susan and Lisa talking to Jake and jokingly tell him that he looked like and seemed a womanizer. He just laughed and brushed it off, and so did I, even though it bothered me. The night went as normal, then I just went home as normal and had a sleepover with my best friend Morgan. At home, Morgan said she had to tell me something. She said that Susan approached her at the dance floor and told her that Lisa just told her that Jake made a pass on her and that she felt uncomfortable. My first response was to trust Susan and Lisa and that I would dump Jake immediately. Morgan told me that I should let her finish the story. Then she said that she was present when Lisa and Jake had that exchange of words and that Jake never made a pass on Lisa and that Lisa misunderstood the conversation. According to Morgan, here is how the conversation went. Morgan was asking Jake for advice on sex with her boyfriend. She wanted a truthful and honest male perspective. She was asking his opinion on very graphic sex topics, such as spitting and more things like that. And at that point Lisa joined the two of them and started asking what they were talking about, so Jake included her on the topics and asking her opinion as well. That was the point that Lisa misunderstood the conversation and felt uncomfortable, so she went straight to Susan and told her that Jake made a pass on her and made uncomfortable. Then Susan went straight to Morgan and told her that Jake made a pass on Lisa. Lisa joined the conversation and they both started telling Morgan that Jake is weird and that they hope I will dump him. They also said that they hope I open my eyes and see who he really is because he is inappropriate. And lastly, they both told Morgan that she could never tell me all this, that it should be a secret and they forbid her to tell me anything, and that they hope that we break up. So I am very confused now. Morgan reassured me many times that Jake never did anything wrong and that Lisa just misunderstood the conversation, but I am very hurt on both sides. I'm worried that Jake is really a bad person and I am also very hurt that two of my closest friends think that my boyfriend made a pass on one of them and decided to tell everyone else instead of me. It has been a month and they never mentioned anything about that night to me. They just pretend that everything is okay and that Jake is nice.